Welcome to the Cafcass Health and Wellbeing Podcast.
Okay, welcome to the Health and Wellbeing Podcast. Once again, we have Carl Bryce, Chloe Janota and Paul Doherty, and today's topic we are covering gut health. So we're going to hopefully cover what impacts the gut and in a positive or negative way, how we can make some simple changes to support better gut health and hopefully give you some ideas to take away, really. So to get us started, who wants to kick us off in terms of the importance of the gut, really? What's the function of the gut?
Well, I guess when we talk about the gut, that's referring to just the small and the large intestine, and the small intestine is where like 95% of the absorption of the nutrients from your food occurs, and then the large intestine, that's where anything that wasn't absorbed, that the food ends up in the large intestine, and that's where you've got like all your gut flora and bacteria, which then breaks down that food even further. But obviously the gut is, well, when we're talking about digestion, that obviously starts in the mouth and ends and finishes the other end.
So if we kind of go through that, like that simple we'll try and keep it as simple. So we eat the food, or we put the food in our mouths. What's the next steps to get through to the intestines?
We have enzymes in your saliva that begin to break down the food in your mouth, and then that passes down your esophagus into your stomach, where you've got enzymes and obviously stomach acid, which breaks down the food further, and then that travels into the small intestine, and that's, as I say, where the most of the 95% of the absorption of nutrients occurs. And then anything left over that travels to the large intestine, where it's broken down further, and then anything that's not broken down or can't be absorbed, that's then excreted.
Excellent. So it's quite a process what the body goes through in terms of breaking down food, really, and extracting nutrients from the foods. So in the small intestine, you say 95% of nutrients are taken from the foods, and then that is then absorbed into the body, right?
Yeah, into the bloodstream.
Into the bloodstream, yeah, super. So it is really, if we think about its function, it's really important for getting the nutrients out of food and into the system, which then obviously benefits our hormones, our energy, our growth and repair, cardiovascular system, all those different things, doesn't it? So it's really, really important to try and manage our gut health.
And obviously the small intestine acts as like a barrier for any pathogens or toxins entering the gut as well. So it can let things out and also let things in.
So what would so in terms of an example of something that you'd block, what types of things would it be looking to block from entering the bloodstream?
Things like cytokines and things. Is it from the immune system, which if they enter your intestines, it like creates a inflammatory response, and that's what chronic inflammation leads to diseases like heart disease, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, and that sort of thing.
So it's really acting as a security really mechanism to some of those diseases that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And there's a big link, or there's a lot said these days around the gut being the second brain, isn't there?
Yeah, the gut-brain axis.
Yeah. Just in brief, do we want to try and just cover that to see, just have a chat about that and how that works?
Yeah, I guess it's just the link between the intestines and the brain, and the idea is that the brain can send signals to the intestines and vice versa. I guess it involves it links the central nervous system with the enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system that's associated with the gut, basically. I guess it allows the brain to influence how the intestines function, and it can be linked to, and that's why things like stress and depression and anxiety can also be linked to gut health. And
so those types of conditions can be managed potentially through looking at improving your gut health, which is, again, I think that's a really useful association for colleagues to know about, that if there's heightened levels of stress, if there's levels of anxiety leading to depression, then considering one of the things that happens is emotional eating, isn't it? And not necessarily emotional eating of the right things. So that can lead to deterioration in the gut as well, can't it? So, really, really useful point to make there. And is it vice versa? The brain helps in terms of the intestines functioning, but do them signals go both ways into, the gut sending signals to the brain as well as the brain sending signals through to the gut?
Yeah, it can work both ways. And that's what, when I was saying about the intestines can let nutrients out, but also, it regulates the absorption of nutrients into the circulation and prevents anything entering the intestines. That's stress can play a big role in that, and how permeable the intestines are. So if you're under chronic stress, it can increase the permeability of the small intestines. So even if you're eating a really healthy diet, if you've got what they call a leaky gut, then you're not really absorbing any of the nutrients, so you're not getting any of the benefits, and it could just lead to an inflammatory state instead. So even if you are trying to be healthy, if you're just under stress all the time, then that's the thing you need to address first, rather than your diet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So increased levels of chronic stress, for instance, can lead to this term of leaky gut. And Carl, do you want to give a bit of an explanation, or do you just kind of explain to listeners what a leaky gut is?
Well, I'll just we step back again, just to because we're talking about the little brain, weren't we? And about how that because I think it's just to go over the mental health side of things before we move on to the leaky gut side of things. Within the brain, a lot of people probably know or be aware of that. We have different chemicals in the brain called neurotransmitters, and certain neurotransmitters do different jobs. So especially serotonin, which is a lot of people will know that's like the happy hormone almost, which helps with people to increase mood. Which why if people are depressed and they get provided antidepressants, one of the key antidepressants is called SSRI, which helps basically increase the serotonin within the brain. Now, within within our gut system, we have a massive network of neurons as well, which is like what's found in the brain, which is why it's called the little brain or the second brain. And they're connected by a nerve called the vagus nerve. Now, if, like what Chloe's already mentioned before about if for whatever reason our gut biome is affected, whether it's through stress or through poor diet or whatever else, then the amount of serotonin that's produced within the stomach can be affected. And again, now if the serotonin is low within the stomach, then the signal that's sending to the brain is saying that we've got low serotonin. So then obviously that's going to impact on mood as well, which is basically the underlying mechanism between it. So a lot in terms of helping with mental health disorders, especially with depression and anxiety, would be to focus on looking at improving the gut biome. We've not talked about that, have we yet? About how to improve it?
No.
We're going to come on to.
Yeah.
So that's basically something to think about in terms of the connection between the gut health and our mood, which is important to understand. So I just thought it was good just to mention that. In terms of
really useful. And
it's been linked with other kind of, so the mood can be affected by it's not just gut biome, but it's also other kind of like digestive disorders, like IBS. Again, it's been linked to mood disorders as well, with the relation in terms of the gut biome not being as effective as what it could be.
You see that quite a lot, don't we? In terms of I'm working with individuals that they're displaying or expressing that they feel stressed, depressed, very anxious. These mental health conditions, but then the physical stuff, the majority of them will be suffering from IBS as well, and they just see that as, oh well, I've just got IBS, it's just normal, I've had it for a while type thing. They don't necessarily see that as something to tackle, which I always find quite interesting, and I'm sure you two do as well when working one-to-one, when we see someone who has chronic stress or depression, and as well as things like IBS, and then we're asking them to complete a food diary, and they're like, well, what are you doing this for? Why haven't I completed a food diary? But that type of thing gives us so much information around what they're eating, how that makes them feel, etc., what times of day they're eating and stuff like that. So it really is, those types of things are really beneficial for us as coaches to support people, aren't they? So it's about making those links and getting people to understand those links. So I think we've covered that quite well there in terms of what I can do. So that's good. Great. So if we go back, we kind of did move on relatively quickly onto that term leaky gut. Do we want to kind of just outline what that is and the impact of that and then maybe we can start thinking about some suggestions for people too?
So like Chloe was saying there, it's the lining of the gut where nutrients is absorbed into the bloodstream. If for whatever reason for a number of different reasons, one of them is that the like an overgrowth of yeast, for example, or something like that, or different types of bacteria, it can irritate the lining, and it can start to basically cause some of the parts of the lining to create small holes in there that allow, instead of the nutrients of the food getting through, it can actually allow things like instead of the nutrients of the food, it can actually let small bits of food in, which for example, let's just say, I don't know, say peanuts, for example, a bit of peanut gets in through the gut because the lining's been damaged, then the body then might see that as as being attacked, as like a foreign body. So the body will basically create, the immune system will basically attack that food, which can cause people to become allergic to certain foods as well. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Chloe.
Just it can also be caused by things like alcohol and some medication like aspirins and ibuprofen if they're overused, and also if you've got things like celiac disease and Crohn's disease, that sort of thing, that it can also damage the lining of the intestines and lead to a leaky gut. But I think there's still a lot of like research being done about it. I don't know if it's actually a technical term or whether it's still kind of.
It's a well-used term, isn't it? I think within the field.
Yeah.
And I think just going back to your point, Carl, around if a piece of food or a foreign object gets through the gut into the system, the body starts to attack it. That then often leaves the immune system very vulnerable to other bacterial infections, for instance. Because the body can only pretty much tackle one thing at a time, can't it? In terms of keeping it strong. So I think again what I see is these little colds, coughs, flu type symptoms, headaches, all those other types of symptoms that people might have can potentially be related back to the body's immune system tackling something else due to poor gut health. I don't know if you've experienced much of that in some of your work, but I've certainly seen it in mine. Those more short-term sickness bug type things. Okay, so how do we go about, or shall we say, I mean, we've mentioned a couple of things that can harm it. You can say some medications, alcohol. Is there certain types of food to avoid? Are we going back to that same message of, process is generally the processed foods that are heavily laden with chemicals, or those are the types of things? Is there anything else? Is there any types of natural food that could potentially harm the gut health?
No, it's mainly processed food. You should be aiming to increase your intake of your plant-based foods, like your fruit, vegetables, nuts and legumes, and just the main thing is to get a variety, because obviously the more variety of food you have, the bigger variety of microbes you'll have. And that doesn't mean that you can't eat meat or you have to follow a plant-based diet. It just means to include a lot of plant-based foods within your diet.
Does that come down to a lot of the fibre that's in there, Chloe?
Yeah. Obviously full of fibre, and that's fiber's what they call a prebiotic, so that feeds the good bacteria. And
that's what we're looking for. The bacteria, the level of bacteria is really important, isn't it? Or, the type of bacteria that we've got within the gut. That's a vital component, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you have a high intake of processed food, that can outweigh the good bacteria with the bad bacteria, and that's when you get all the problems, inflammation and everything.
Yeah. Does that also, so thinking about bacteria, if anybody has ever been and done a course of antibiotics, that clears out the gut bacteria, doesn't it? Pretty much, as well as any bacteria that's causing, any kind of whatever you'd be on antibiotics for.
Yeah, gets rid of the good and bad bacteria. So that's when they advise to use a probiotic. There's a lot of research being done around probiotics and how beneficial they are, because it's only been proven to benefit you if you've been on antibiotics or if you've got traveller's diarrhea or sometimes with IBS. Other than that, there's no robust evidence to say that they work, because it's strain specific. So what could be beneficial for like if you've been on antibiotics, wouldn't necessarily benefit you if you had traveller's diarrhea. So it's there's still a lot of research to be done for like taking probiotics to benefit your mental health and things like that. But there's no harm in taking them. Like, they're not harmful, but it's not like it's not going to cure everything sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Isn't there a bit more evidence to say that prebiotics or prebiotic foods are more beneficial, particularly for within the gut? Because I think I was reading somewhere that by taking probiotics, they don't often have the time to grow within the body and become active, whereas introducing prebiotics, whether that's through the types of foods like you mentioned a few of them before, Chloe, or through supplements, they often stay within the system a little bit longer and actually start to grow and produce more bacteria.
Yeah, and obviously that's why they feed on they feed off the fibre and everything. So if you don't have a healthy diet, but then you're taking a probiotic, it's not going to be very effective, because obviously you need they
need to grow.
Yeah, they need to grow before they can flourish.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So I would say probably quite a lot of people will be taking a probiotic either through advice, but not necessarily change the diets as well. So not getting enough fibre, not getting enough fermented foods potentially, or things like fungi like mushrooms and stuff like that. They're probably not getting enough of those types of food to allow the bacteria to stay within the system. So hopefully that
eating quite a lot of sugar as well, and feeding the the potential more dangerous bacteria, and things like still drinking alcohol and having bread if you've got like a yeast infection or anything like that. Not allowing it time to actually die off. I think one thing that I was going to say as well is around phytic acid and around the preparation of grains. So a lot of people that might eat, say, oatmeal, but basically phytic acid it can be damaging, and it can be like a precursor to leaky gut, and it's found in grains. And what they say is a way to get rid of this phytic acid, which is damaging to the body, is by basically soaking grains, like preparing them differently, to allow time for that phytic acid to be broken down naturally within the water, so that when you come then to eat the food, it's already been broken down and it's not going to be damaging to the gut lining.
That's interesting. So does that be stuff like overnight oats?
Yeah, things like that. But the thing is so basically it's if you can soak them overnight, especially if you're going to have, say, oatmeal, or you're going to have rice or brown rice or something like that, you just soak them for about 12 hours, which basically is overnight, isn't it? Again, but with a lot of things it takes preparation, doesn't it? It takes a bit of a commitment to do these things. But it's just another thing to think about.
No, that's really, really useful, I think. Would that be Chloe, would that be the same for like soaking dried beans and stuff like that?
It's just easier to digest as well, so obviously less stress on your digestive system. But I think one of the main things is just to eat a wide variety of foods and like different colours, and like maybe I try and, when I go to the supermarket, try and pick a different type of vegetable that I wouldn't usually try each week, and just try something new. So you're not sticking with the same thing each time.
No, that's really good. I think I was just going to mention one thing around what I've used and what I've recommended in the past for supporting gut health, and that's bone broth. I don't know if either of you two have come, used it or seen the benefits of it, but certainly something I've recommended and seen good results from, particularly people who've got this leaky gut, or things like IBS and stuff. So the idea is to the bone broth is a liquid of water, bones, which can be meat, fish, and then your vegetables. So you're essentially making a big stock, and it's something that to be had just by itself. So I suppose it probably goes back to that. It might be a kind of an old wives' tale around chicken soup when you're feeling poorly. But I think what one of the benefits of seeing is helping to protect gut walls and gut lining. So if we're thinking about that leaky gut, but bone broth, there's some evidence there to say it can support that, improving kind of storage of nutrients, improving digestion, and management in the body's management of its waste, etc. So I think that's certainly something to think about. I don't know if there's a vegan option for that, but or a vegetarian option for bone broth, but certainly, just
miso
something.
soup, maybe.
Miso soup, yeah. That's I suppose it's just trying to get some bacteria into the body. I think with bone broth as well, you get the bone, things like collagen and all the minerals, proteins, etc. that you get out of the bones, which is that benefit. But that's certainly something I've seen. But to go along with some of the recommendations there that we've mentioned, so that's good. It's tasty as well. I think anyway. No, not to everybody's liking, I imagine. Good. Is there anything else in terms of types of food or supplements or anything else? What about it's probably more. This is probably more stomach acid, but vinegar with the mother. We're getting some. I suppose you got the bacteria, the fermentation of what the acid goes through to become a vinegar. But is that something either of you have used or recommended?
Vinegar with what? Sorry.
The mother. So it's kind of the back. So a lot of most vinegars, like your shop bought vinegars that you get, like your cheap ones. And you get in the shop, they've had the bacteria taken out of it.
Okay.
So which is known as the mother.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, if you couldn't hear me there. So that's one thing that I've used. Obviously, like the vinegar's good for acidity levels and improving the kind of breakdown of food in the stomach and improving stomach acid levels. But with the mother, you've got the bacteria. So it's just another potential option for getting some good bacteria in the body. Yeah,
so similar to like kombucha and kefir and stuff like that.
Yeah. So them kind of fermented. Is it one of those fermented soy? I can't remember. Kombucha.
Kombucha's that like the drink, isn't it? I don't actually know what it's made out of, but
no, maybe we can have a look at that and share. Kefir's it's just a bacteria that you put in. You soak, don't you, in milk or water, and
it tastes like sour yogurt.
It turns into like a yogurt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Have you tried that, Carl?
I've not tried it. No.
I've not tried that one.
Apparently, it's meant to be good to help you sleep as well.
Oh right, that's interesting. Maybe we can share. What we'll do, we can share some of these things, can't we? So recommended kind of things that people can do kind of to supplement the diets, I suppose. But I suppose it'll come down to, like you say, variation of foods, fibre, to allow the bacteria to grow and become active, which is really...
I think sauerkraut's quite a good one. I think it's quite tasty as well, and you can make your own quite easily.
Sauerkraut, it's just salt and cabbage, isn't it?
Yeah, just crunched up. It's crunching it all up.
Takes some time.
Yeah.
I suppose it comes down to that preparation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you need a big fridge as well. So if you've only got a small fridge, you try to store it in the back of the fridge for a bit to get it, to obviously let it ferment.
Yeah.
It can take up a bit of room. But I think that's quite a tasty way of doing it. It's nice.
Alex, I've got some sauerkraut in the fridge. I've got to say, I didn't make this for myself. It's sometimes a bit easier to buy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah,
even just natural yogurt as well. It usually has the live cultures in it, and sourdough bread.
Sourdough, yeah. Have you got to look for the yogurt, Chloe? We've got to be looking for something. So some of the bacteria will be stripped out of some of the yogurts, won't it? Have we got to look for certain types?
It's usually, is it lactobacillus that's added and bifidobacterium, I want to say, but
yeah,
it's usually those two live cultures, and most of them should have it, but yeah, it's worth checking.
Yeah, I'd imagine I suppose would we be? I'm trying to think. There's certain products in there, like your fat-free ones that have riddled with other types of chemicals, etc. So it might be one to avoid, but maybe we'll have a look for a recommended yogurt, natural yogurt. That people can purchase. That'd be quite good for them. We'll come up with a bit of a list.
You can look on. You can look online as things like getting raw dairy products as well. You can actually. You got to buy it from the farm, from the source. You won't be able to get it in the shops. But again, it's not been yogurts have not been pasteurized or anything like that. So literally, you're getting all the natural, healthy, bacteria within that. But again, it's personal preference if you would want to buy something that's not been processed.
So, I think in other cultures, particularly France, for instance, a lot of their dairy products are unpasteurized, aren't they? I think pasteurizing's come about for a number of reasons, and they kind of infected livestock, all that kind of stuff.
Post-war, apparently, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When all the animals are malnutritioned as well, weren't being fed or what's the other word as well? I'm thinking of like the cleanliness of the farms and stuff like that. I don't think that kind of level of cleanliness was there come what it is today.
Which is why they're pasteurised, wasn't it? So to stop infections and
killing the bad bacteria, but then also it's killing the healthy bacteria as well.
That's right. Yeah. So I suppose with raw products, it's really, I suppose, knowing the source.
Yeah.
Maybe even creating relationships with the local producer who's doing that. Might be something to recommend, because if you know the source and you can see that they're coming from a clean, healthy livestock, then that's certainly something to think about. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, is there, in terms of, so if I think we've covered quite a bit there, haven't we? We've kind of covered the gut's function, a couple of things to avoid or to minimise the impact on the gut. Some nice recommendations to improve the environment, I think. So is there anything else that we need to kind of have a chat about that we think would be useful for our listeners?
Smoking, that has a negative impact on gut health as well.
Okay. Is that due to the toxins damaging the walls? Or is that something, am I off mark?
No, I think that's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah. So similar to how the toxins from smoke can damage artery walls and causing, I suppose, inflammation within the arteries. It can do a similar, or it can have a similar impact on the gut as well.
Yeah. And obviously, exercise is good for gut health and can help if you've got symptoms like constipation and things like bloating and things like that. And yeah, other things that are good are like breastfeeding and even things like having a pet. Apparently that's one of the most healthy things you can do for your gut microbiome, because you're exposed to different kinds of bacteria. And yeah, I think basically we're now too clean. Like, we use all the hand sanitizers and things like that, and it's kind of going the opposite way. You're not exposed to a big diversity of microbes like we used to be. It's kind of going the opposite way.
Yeah, and I think, did we mention about the gut biome for immune system? So I think that's a key part in it, knowing that, you know, that if your gut biome is not has been impacted for whatever reason, then your immune system is affected. So like what Chloe, this just reminded me, because what Chloe was saying there about, the more that we're exposed to different types of bacteria, the more our immune system can learn how to defend against a variety of different potential threats. So again, it's all linked in together, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose we mentioned, we didn't necessarily mention that function, did we? We spoke about if the body's trying to tackle a foreign body, it potentially can lead us susceptible to other bacteria. So I suppose, so the gut. What's the role of the gut biome then, Carl? What's its role in terms of supporting the immune system?
Well, again, it's just the body getting used to the different types of bacteria. So obviously, if for whatever reason the gut biome is affected, or you're not exposing yourself to any type of different types of organisms or potential threats through bacteria, then your body's not going to learn. So when for whatever reason you come along and you do touch something, or you take something in that's got something potentially that's dangerous, then you're more likely then for your body to have an adverse reaction to it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
It's like anything, isn't it? It's like going to the gym. You don't get stronger without training your muscles. So if you're not exposing your immune system to different types of bacteria, then it's not going to be as strong.
Yeah, that's good. So I suppose that could play into kind of thinking about, I suppose, the types of foods, getting the bacteria, food with bacteria in, isn't it? Is there anything else in terms of trying to improve it? What we say kind of, I don't want to say to everybody just live in a dirty mess type thing. Is there any way of exposing ourselves to bacteria, other than, I suppose, kind of being sociable?
I think just getting out. Sorry, Chloe, go on.
Gardening.
Yeah.
Getting outside more.
Yeah, let your kids play out in the soil and stuff, and dirty and things like that.
Yeah,
just getting the natural environment more.
Yeah.
And not be afraid of getting dirty, or or having to always carry around a bottle of antibacterial gel. Every time you touch something, you put it straight into your hands.
Yeah. So should we be telling people to kind of go from a 5-second rule to a 10-second rule?
Yeah. Even things like even like having your windows open in your house, like people are not exposed to fresh air anymore. That it kind of changes the environment in the house. So. I was thinking about environment, and I was thinking, does like the office environment, it's probably not a couple. Does potentially like air conditioning and things like that have an impact on bacteria or the environment that we're potentially going to be working in? I assume so, because it's not natural. It's not natural, is it? Like you're not exposed to fresh air or anything. And
Yeah.
It's not a filter, is it? It's not purifying the air.
No.
So it might. I don't know whether or not it would.
No.
To be honest. But yeah, but maybe there's probably something that's gonna change change it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the artificial environment we create sometimes, don't we? By if it's a warm office, we'll put the air conditioning on rather than opening the windows. If it's a cold office, rather than putting a jumper on, we'll put the heating on type thing.
Yeah.
I say sat in my hoodie, keeping nice and warm at home.
Yeah, that's the radiator.
No. I am next to a radiator, but it's not on. It's freezing. So just
fair though,
exposure to that, isn't there?
I think whether or not it affects your gut biome, I'm not too sure. But what I do know is that doing controlled cold exposure, whether it's having like a 30-second cold shower after you've had your main shower, or doing a bit of wild swimming if you're out and about, or whatever else it might be, or even just like not wearing your coat while you go to the shop or something like that. In winter you would just like walking 10 minutes down the road or something. Again, this controlled cold exposure can go a long way in terms of increasing the immune system. So it relates to the immune system, but maybe not the gut biome. Thinking about that.
It's the cold exposure is really beneficial, isn't it, in terms of, like you say, for immune system, but for also management of stress, because you're putting your body under a certain amount of stress if you go in the cold. I'm a big advocate of a cold shower of a morning to wake you up and get your body kind of functioning and alive, and get the blood circulating around to keep you warm. All those different types of things that can be benefited from exposure to cold. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Well made, Carl. I was just going to go back to you, Chloe, or just a point that you made around exercise and what people, is there any particular types of exercise that we should be doing or that we can be doing, or is it just being more active than what we know people are?
Yeah, just moving more. People are sat down far too much, and just even getting up for 5 minutes every hour and moving around will just help you with your digestion, because if you just sat there, that's when you end up feeling sluggish and bloated and everything. So if you just move around a bit, it'll just really help with that. And you could go outside and go for a walk, and then you combine in the things there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, would we say when we're getting out and about, so I'm just thinking of being out and active, obviously it's more beneficial to be around somewhere green, isn't it, than the kind of city centres. So I mean, even I suppose it's finding potential routes around where you live or around the offices where you can get into a little bit of green space or open space away from roads. I suppose that would be one thing to think about. I was only doing, but even I know, for instance, the London office is next to a nice green park, and I'm sure there's routes like in Leeds that you can get down onto the canal. There's quite good access to stuff like that. Not sure about in Manchester next to the train station, Carl, but
off the top of my head, I don't think there is much around there, but you're not too far from the canal.
Yeah.
So you can have like a nice stroll away from any roads and stuff like that. So that's always nice.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Great. So I think we've covered quite a bit there, haven't we? I'll ask again, is there anything else that we need to maybe think about to support gut health? We've kind of come up with a few additional suggestions there. Is there anything else we can think of off the top of our heads?
No, I don't think so. I think we've done a quite, there's a lot of information to take in there, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Is there any link between kind of relaxation, meditation, that type of thing, given how that supports the brain and the link between the brain and the gut? Or
I was just going to say de-stressing or managing your stress is one of the a key point for your gut health, and obviously mindfulness and everything helps with that.
That's good. Well, maybe what we can do then is link to the stress management tools that we have available, and the mindfulness tools that we have available online for people to have a look at following this session. So there's lots of things, isn't there, that can support people. So, okay, shall we do our usual kind of top tip each before we finish and sign off?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. I'm happy. Carl, do you want to start us off with your top tip to improve gut health or support gut health, shall we say?
Mine would be to eat more fermented food. That would mine. So get yourself some sauerkraut and keep it in the fridge, and use it as a bit of a snack every now and again. I think that can go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Chloe?
I think, mine would just be to eat a variety of plant-based foods. So, as I say, each time you go to the shop, try and find a food that you wouldn't usually eat, a different vegetable or fruit or something like that, and just try something new.
Excellent. And I think for me, my tip is going to be to limit the toxins that you're putting into your body. So that's anything from processed foods, alcohol, smoking, etc. But also, I suppose, to think about any medication or drugs that you may be taking that are not prescribed by a GP, and have a think about whether they're useful or not. So that'd be my tip to have a think about and consider. So that's been good. Thank you for listening. Obviously, if anybody wants to get in touch, they can do so via the Health and Wellbeing inbox, or via the Yammer page. So please do contact us on those streams. If you'd like some more one-to-one support, do let us know. Or complete a food diary. We can link to the food diary. Complete a food diary and send it through to the Health and Wellbeing inbox, and one of us will get back to you. And we'll link to all of the resources and some of the recommendations that we've made in the show notes when we publish. That's been great. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Chloe. And we'll see you in episode 6. Have we got a topic for next episode, Chloe?
No, I think we've run out of ideas now. So
TBC.
any ideas then?
TBC.
So that would be good if people have got any ideas. What we'll do, we'll ask on the Yammer group for any ideas. If not, we'll be coming to you with something related to health and wellbeing. So thank you for your time. We'll speak soon.